Chapter 7. The tension that had been building for days finally reached its boiling point. In the aftermath of Ishani's scandal, and the seething jealousy that had consumed Rudra, the atmosphere within the Raichand mansion was electric, each corridor humming with unspoken challenges and resentments. It began during a late-night strategy meeting at the mansion's private study, where the remaining members of the Raichand family and key associates gathered to discuss the fallout from Ishani's return. The air was heavy with anger and anxiety, every whispered word a reminder of the wounds that had yet to heal. Aadhira sat stiffly in the corner, her eyes dark with defiance, while Rudra's icy gaze swept across the room. The subject of Ishani inevitably surfaced, a name that still stung with betrayal. As the discussion grew heated, the tension between Rudra and Aadhira was palpable. Their arguments, which had been confined to snatches of cold words and stinging glances in public, now erupted in private moments that no one could ignore. It was as if the very air between them crackled with electricity, each word laden with both anger and something unspoken, something dangerously intimate. Later that night, when the mansion had finally quieted down and most of the family had retired, Rudra found Aadhira alone in the study. The soft glow of a solitary lamp illuminated her face, highlighting the fierce determination in her eyes, a look that both challenged and beckoned him. "You always think you can do better," Rudra said suddenly, his voice a low, dangerous rumble as he stepped closer. His eyes bore into hers, and for a moment, the room fell silent apart from the pounding of their hearts. "You think you can stand up to me, defy every command I give, and yet..." His words trailed off as if he were struggling with the storm of emotions that warred within him. Aadhira met his gaze head-on, her own eyes flickering with anger and hurt. "And what, Rudra? You think owning me will make everything all right?" She spat, her voice quivering slightly with suppressed emotion. Before she could take another step, Rudra closed the distance between them. His hand shot out, gently but firmly cupping her chin, forcing her to look directly into his dark, intense eyes. In that moment, the heated exchange of words faded into a silence that was charged with raw desire and desperate need. He leaned in abruptly, his lips crashing onto hers in a kiss that was both possessive and insistent, a kiss that seemed to command, to demand, to declare his ownership of every part of her. For a long, agonizing moment, time stood still. Aadhira fought against the overwhelming surge of emotions. Her mind screamed protest, even as her body betrayed her with its response. Her hands initially flailed in a futile attempt to push him away, but as the kiss deepened, her resistance began to melt. The battle between defiance and longing raged on, and in the heat of that moment, her defenses crumbled. She found herself yielding, surrendering to a passion that she had long tried to deny. When Rudra finally pulled away, his eyes lingered on hers, dark and unreadable. His voice, barely more than a whisper, cut through the charged silence of the room. "You can deny it all you want, Aadhira, but your body responds to mine." The words sent shivers down her spine, igniting a tumultuous mix of anger, desire, and reluctant acceptance. Aadhira's heart pounded furiously as she struggled to regain control, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. In that kiss, the boundaries between hate and passion had blurred irreparably. What had started as a fierce battle of wills had transformed into an undeniable connection, forged in fire and longing. For a long time afterward, they stood in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The kiss had changed everything, marking a turning point in their tumultuous relationship. It was as if, in that single moment, all the pain, anger, and unspoken desire had converged into something that neither of them could ever ignore again. Aadhira's defiant gaze softened ever so slightly as she looked back at Rudra, a silent question lingering in her eyes. Was this the beginning of understanding, or merely the calm before an even fiercer storm? Rudra's lips curved into a half-smile, a mix of triumph and uncertainty. He knew that nothing would ever be the same now. They were irrevocably bound by that kiss, their fates intertwined in ways that defied the cold logic of business arrangements and the ruthless nature of power. In the dim light of the study, with the echoes of their shared past and the uncertainties of their future swirling around them, Rudra and Aadhira stood on the precipice of a new reality. A reality where every touch, every glance, carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken promises, and the threat of a love that was as destructive as it was irresistible. And in that fragile, charged moment, they both realized that their battle was far from over. It had only just begun. Chapter 7.